Quantum Fairies, the Age of Wonder. Prologue, the Sealing of the Gates. Moonlight bathed the ancient world in silver, shimmering across rivers that glowed faintly with bioluminescent fish. The night was alive with magic. Great stone circles pulsed softly with light, their carved runes thrumming in harmony with the earth's heartbeat. All around them, fairies danced, trailing golden arcs of radiance that hung in the air like falling stars. Their laughter was like wind chimes in spring. Beneath the largest circle, a fairy queen named Lyril floated gracefully above the grass, her translucent wings catching starlight. "The realms are aligned," she whispered to her kin. "The gates breathe freely tonight." Across the meadow, humans gathered, farmers, healers, and children clutching flowers, watching in awe. In those days, there was no separation between mankind and the fair folk. They exchanged gifts of song, healing, and knowledge. Fairies taught humans to coax saplings from seeds with a hum, to guide rivers back to thirsty fields. In return, humans built shrines and planted forests in their honor. Tonight was to be a celebration, until a chill wind swept across the circle. Darkness rippled on the horizon. Torches flared. From the tree line, Malachar emerged, his black cloak dragging across the grass like spilled ink. His once human face was pale and angular, eyes burning like molten coals. Behind him came his followers, hooded in shadow, clutching staffs carved with obsidian runes. The air thickened. The stars above seemed to dim. "Malachar," Lyril called, her voice trembling. "What have you done?" He smiled thinly. "I have outgrown their rules." He gestured to the fairies, and the humans clustered together. "For too long, your kind has bound magic to balance, to restraint. No longer." He slammed his staff into the earth. Black tendrils erupted, spreading across the meadow like veins of tar. Flowers shriveled where they touched. The humans gasped as the warmth of the world fled. Lyril's wings flared. "You endanger everything. The portals tie our worlds together. To sever them is to wound the earth itself." "Then let it bleed," Malachar hissed. "Let it kneel." He raised his staff high, chanting words that curdled the air. His disciples joined in, their voices merging into a low, hungry roar. The great stones of the circle flickered, once golden, now turning black. "Stop him!" cried a fairy warrior, loosing a bolt of searing light. It struck Malachar's chest, but he absorbed it, twisting it into a snake of shadow and hurling it back. The fairy fell, wings torn, and the ground where she lay turned to ash. The fairies swarmed him, their glow searing bright, but for every spell cast, Malachar consumed it, swelling with dark power. His followers drove humans back, binding them in chains of shadow. Lyril soared upward, her wings beating furiously. She summoned a ring of light around the circle, ancient words spilling from her lips, a desperate counterspell to hold the gates open. But Malachar was faster. With a roar, he plunged his staff into the heart of the circle. A shockwave tore through the earth. The stone gates screamed as if alive. Their runes flared one final time, then bled black and cracked. Across the world, in every stone circle and ley line nexus, the same thing happened. Portals collapsing, one by one. The fairies cried out as they were ripped backward, pulled violently toward their realm. Humans watched helplessly as glowing figures they loved, companions, friends, healers, were dragged screaming into the sky like falling stars in reverse. "Lyril!" a child cried, reaching upward as the fairy queen strained to resist. Lyriel's eyes locked on Malakar's. "You will drown in your own darkness," she vowed. With her last strength, she flung a surge of radiant energy at him. It struck true, encasing him in a cage of crystal light that plunged deep beneath the circle stones. His scream rattled mountains, but it was too late. The portals sealed. One by one, the fairies vanished into the rift until only silence remained. The glowing rivers dimmed. The enchanted forests browned. The air felt heavier, colder. A final rumble shook the land as Malakar's prison sank beneath the soil, locked away, waiting. And so, magic faded. Humanity forgot its guardians. The world turned gray. Thousands of years later, a soft glow filled a dark laboratory. Dr. Emma Lumens stared at her monitors, eyes wide. On the screen, a quantum resonance waveform pulsed. Alive, rhythmic, impossibly beautiful. She leaned closer, whispering, "What are you?" Her fingers hovered over her keyboard. With one keystroke, she overlaid ley line data on her scan. Perfect alignment. Her heart raced. Somewhere deep in the earth, a black crystal pulsed faintly in response. Chapter 1: The Quantum Anomaly. The lab was silent except for the hum of machines and the rhythmic click of Emma Lumen's keyboard. The glow of multiple holographic screens painted her face in shifting blues and greens, illuminating the sharp focus in her hazel eyes. She leaned closer to the central display, a quantum resonance field simulation, her latest experiment in entangled particle arrays. But what she saw made no sense. The waveform wasn't random noise, it was structured. Emma adjusted the parameters, filtering out background interference. The signal sharpened into a perfect harmonic pulse, steady and alive, repeating every 12.84 seconds. It was too precise to be natural, too elegant to be chaos. She frowned. No known quantum field should behave like this. For weeks now, her detectors had picked up strange resonance spikes, often around midnight. They seemed to cluster near ancient geographic points, old stone circles, burial mounds, sacred groves. She had dismissed it as equipment error, but the pattern persisted, undeniable. Emma sipped her now cold coffee and leaned back in her chair. She was 32, one of the youngest researchers to lead a quantum resonance project at the International Physics Institute. Yet tonight, she felt more like an explorer than a scientist. Her gaze shifted to a second monitor, where she'd overlaid her data with maps. The correlation was stunning. The anomalies aligned perfectly with ancient ley lines. Emma muttered to herself, "These sites, they're singing." She hesitated, then clicked open another file, a secret one she kept hidden from colleagues. Old myths and scanned folklore texts filled the screen. Tales of fairy circles, glowing rings of mushrooms said to be gateways for the hidden folk. She remembered something her grandmother once told her as a child. Where mushrooms dance in circles, the fair folk walk between worlds. Emma smiled faintly, shaking her head. She'd grown up loving those stories, but science had replaced wonder long ago. And yet, she stared back at the waveform. It was beautiful, living, almost like it was calling to her. At 2 a.m., the quiet buzz of the lab was interrupted by the arrival of Dr. Howard Lynn, her colleague and closest friend at the Institute. He pushed open the door, holding 2 cans of vending machine energy drink. "Emma!" he groaned. "You've been here since yesterday morning. Please tell me you've at least eaten something." She waved him over. "Howard, look at this." He sighed but approached, setting the cans down beside her keyboard. His eyes narrowed at the display. "That's weird. Is that from last night's run?" "Tonight's," Emma said, excitement in her voice. "It's not an error. It's repeating, perfectly timed. I ran a Fourier analysis. Look at these harmonics." Howard squinted. "These are Fibonacci ratios? This is golden spiral math." Emma nodded eagerly. "Exactly. Nature's pattern. But this isn't just math. Look." She switched to another screen. A map of Britain glowing with ley lines, converging around Stonehenge. Howard blinked. No, you're not telling me this." "I overlaid the resonance spikes with these historical sites," Emma interrupted, "and it lines up. Howard, these places aren't random. They're nodes in a field. This signal, it's strongest at Stonehenge." He rubbed his forehead. "Emma, you're not seriously saying this is artificial," she finished for him, her voice trembling with conviction. "Someone or something built this thousands of years ago." Howard stared at her like she'd grown wings. "You sound like one of those fringe theorists. Next, you'll be talking about fairy circles," Emma said quietly. He froze. "You've lost it." Emma ignored him, pulling up a magnified scan of a recent anomaly. At its center was a faint ring of fungi captured by satellite, a perfect mushroom circle near an ancient stone formation. "Howard, this isn't magic. It's physics. Look at the data. These fungal networks. Their mycelium is acting like a quantum conductor. It's the same signature I saw in resonance labs. They're creating localized fields." "Localized fields? For what?" Emma turned to him, her voice almost a whisper. "Teleportation. Not across worlds, just Earth, like nature's own entanglement system. But what if those same principles once opened something bigger?" Howard rubbed his face. "Emma, listen to yourself. You think mushrooms are quantum teleport pads for fairies?" Emma smirked. "I think our ancestors stumbled onto a science we've forgotten, and I think I know who might help me prove it." She tapped a name on her screen. William Greenfern, a retired botanist and folklore scholar. His published papers on mycelial intelligence had been laughed out of academia decades ago, but Emma had read them in secret. He lived near an ancient stone circle in rural Wiltshire. Howard groaned. "You're not seriously?" "I booked a train ticket." Emma cut in. "I leave tomorrow." As Howard left, muttering about career suicide, Emma stayed behind, staring once more at the waveform. Her fingers traced its elegant curves on the screen. Suddenly, her monitors flickered. The waveform pulsed brighter, once, twice. And then, a second, darker signal appeared beneath it, jagged and low, like a shadow echo. Emma's breath caught. "What the?" she whispered. Before she could analyze it, the shadow spike vanished. The lights in the lab dimmed. For a heartbeat, Emma swore she felt a chill wind, as though the room itself had sighed. She shivered and closed her laptop. Tomorrow, she would meet William Greenfern. Somewhere far below, in the frozen earth, a black crystal stirred. Chapter 2. The Folklorist's Tale. The train rattled through emerald countryside, its windows framing endless fields and hedgerows, bathed in morning light. Emma Lumens sat pressed against the glass, clutching her satchel, her mind restless. The waveform's haunting beauty wouldn't leave her thoughts. Nor would that brief second of darkness. Wiltshire's rolling hills blurred by, dotted with sheep and the occasional ruin. At every pass of ancient land, Emma felt it. An undercurrent. A hum, faint but steady, like the world itself breathing. 2 hours later, she stepped off at a quiet rural station. The air was crisp and earthy, scented faintly of rain-soaked grass. Waiting beyond the gates was a man in his late 60s, tall and wiry, with a long coat the color of moss and a walking stick, capped with polished wood. His silver hair was tied loosely back, and his green eyes twinkled like sunlight through leaves. William Greenfern. He tipped his wide-brimmed hat. "Doctor, Lumens, I presume." His voice was warm and lyrical, each word carrying a storyteller's cadence. Emma extended her hand. "Emma's fine." He shook it firmly. "Splendid. Follow me. My cottage is just beyond the grove." They walked down a narrow dirt path winding through ancient oak woods. Birds called overhead. Mushrooms clustered at the roots, some glowing faintly in shadowed hollows. Emma glanced down. "Are those bioluminescent?" William smiled. "Ah, Omphallotus illudens, ghost mushrooms. A delightful little proof that nature is far stranger than we credit her for." His words reminded Emma why she'd come. "Your papers on mycelium networks. You proposed they could store and transmit information like neural pathways." "Ah, yes," William chuckled. "Cost me tenure, that did." The scientific community was not ready to hear that forests may have minds of their own. But tell me, Emma, why resurrect a scandal from my past? Emma hesitated. She opened her satchel, pulling out her tablet and showing him the resonance waveform. "Because I think you were right." Inside his cottage, Emma felt like she'd stepped into another world. Shelves groaned under books, botany, folklore, quantum theory. Pressed flowers hung in glass frames beside sketches of stone circles and glowing rings of mushrooms. William studied the waveform intently, adjusting his spectacles. "Magnificent," he murmured. "And this aligns with ley line intersections, does it not?" Emma nodded. "Exactly. These pulses peak at ancient megalithic sites. Stonehenge is strongest, but secondary spikes appear everywhere, from Avebury to Dartmere." William gestured for her to sit by the hearth. He poured tea, the scent of herbs filling the room. "Do you know why those circles were built?" Emma tilted her head. "Astronomical tracking, perhaps?" William smiled knowingly. "So science tells us. But what if I said they were keys?" He walked to a wall lined with scrolls and maps. Pulling one down, he unfurled it on the table. A beautifully detailed illustration of fairies dancing in glowing rings, beneath standing stones crowned by stars. Humans knelt in reverence. "This," William said softly, "is from the Codex Viridia, a 12th century manuscript. It speaks of the fair folk who walked freely between worlds, teaching humans to heal land and spirit alike. They gathered at these circles during alignments, stepping through to what they called the bright veil. Emma leaned closer. A parallel dimension. William tapped his finger against the parchment. A realm bound to Earth, yet higher in frequency, what you physicists would call a quantum layer. The fairies were its custodians. He turned to her, expression grave. But then came Malakar. The name hung heavy in the room. William's voice dropped. An ambitious sorcerer. He discovered how to twist magic, life energy, into something corrupt. He sealed the gates, cutting Earth off from the bright veil, plunging the world into a slow decay. Emma's chest tightened. This matches what I've seen. Energy loss patterns over centuries. Deforestation, species collapse. Exactly, William said. Without their influence, wonder bled from humanity. But the gates can reopen. He pointed to her waveform. This is their heartbeat. Faint, but alive. Emma stared at the map. Her rational mind battled with the impossible. If this is real, then those mushrooms, the mycelium, how do they fit? William's face lit up. Ah, mycelium is the living web of Earth. Beneath every fairy ring, networks stretch for miles. I once hypothesized they act as resonance anchors, binding our world to theirs. Emma recalled her scans. Localized quantum fields, she murmured. They could move through those networks instantly. Fairy circles as teleport nodes. William nodded vigorously. Yes, limited crossings within our world, but to breach the veil itself, one needs greater power, a standing stone circle, aligned perfectly, and... He stopped, eyeing her. Emma met his gaze. And a quantum resonance device, she finished. Silence filled the room, broken only by the crackle of the fire. William's eyes twinkled again. My dear Emma, you're not here for folklore, are you? You've come to build the key. Emma hesitated, her heart pounding. I think I already have it. I just need to test it. William's expression softened with something between pride and worry. Then you must be ready. Opening that gate won't only bring them back, it will wake him. Malakar, Emma whispered. William nodded gravely. If the veil stirs, so will its shadow. That night, Emma slept in the guest room of Greenfern's cottage. She dreamed of glowing wings and starlit meadows, of mushrooms forming perfect circles around her feet. When she woke, dawn light spilled through the window. William was already outside, walking among the ancient oaks, tracing runes into the soil with his cane. Tomorrow, they would go to Stonehenge, and Emma Lumens would open the first gate. Chapter 3. Stone Resonance. The car rolled to a stop at the edge of Salisbury Plain. The horizon was painted in pale gold, dawn mist curling low over the grasslands. In the distance, Stonehenge stood like a crown of ancient teeth, its colossal stones casting long shadows in the morning haze. Emma Lumens stepped out, her breath frosting in the chill air. The wind smelled of wet earth and rain. Beside her, William Greenfern leaned on his cane, his coat whipping lightly around his legs. Even after all these years, he said softly, it still feels alive. Emma glanced at him. Alive? He smiled faintly. Listen closely. At first, all she heard was the breeze, but then, beneath it, a hum. Low, steady, subtle, like the faint buzz of distant power lines, but richer, resonant. Emma shivered. It's real. William nodded. The gate's heartbeat, waiting to be awakened. They approached the rope barrier surrounding the monument. Security patrols usually guarded the site, but William's connections and a carefully forged research permit had granted them private access. Emma carried her quantum resonance device in a rugged case, a lattice of crystalline rods mounted within a sleek emitter, each crystal tuned to harmonic frequencies she had extracted from her data. "You're certain about this?" William asked, eyeing the device. Emma inhaled deeply. "If my calculations are right, this will align the portal's frequency with the bright veil. And if they're wrong?" She managed a wry smile. "Then we've just lugged a very expensive piece of lab equipment into a field." They set up at the circle's heart. Emma positioned the crystalline array on a portable tripod, adjusting its orientation to the standing stones. "Southwest stone. Tilt 2 degrees," she murmured, calibrating precisely. William circled the monument, pressing powdered chalk into carved grooves hidden in the weathered stones. Ancient symbols, faint and eroded, flared briefly under his touch, like faint embers rekindled. "What is that?" Emma asked. "Old druidic sigils," William replied. "More mnemonic than functional. Think of them as passwords carved into the bones of the earth." Emma adjusted her device one final time, then checked the readouts. Resonance grid aligned, crystals at peak charge. William rested his cane in the grass and gave her a steady look. "Then, do it." Emma exhaled, fingers trembling slightly, as she keyed in the activation sequence. The array pulsed, crystals glowing with a pale blue luminescence. A tone filled the air, pure, clear, almost musical. The stones vibrated faintly. Birds scattered from the fields. Emma's screen displayed the waveform stabilizing, frequency lock achieved. "Powering up," she whispered. The glow intensified, beams of energy shooting outward from the device to strike the stones. Runes hidden in their cracks blazed to life, tracing lines of light around the circle. The hum deepened, vibrating in Emma's chest like a second heartbeat. Then, the ground trembled. Grass at the circle's center shimmered, colors bending as though heat waves distorted the air. Emma stumbled back as a column of light erupted upward, spiraling like a helix of stardust. Her instruments spiked wildly. Quantum resonance exceeded safe levels, then stabilized, locking into perfect symmetry. "By the green gods," William whispered. Emma stared, awestruck. "It's beautiful." The light column widened, becoming translucent, a window into another realm. On the other side stretched a luminous meadow under twin moons. Glowing waterfalls cascaded in the distance, feeding rivers lined with flowers that shimmered like gemstones. Trees with silver leaves swayed in a breeze that crossed dimensions. Then, shapes emerged. They came like shafts of sunlight given form. Fairies, their wings iridescent, scattering rainbows with every beat. Their forms were humanoid, yet impossibly delicate, glowing faintly as if woven from light itself. The first to step through was taller than the rest, her hair a cascade of silver, her wings patterned like stained glass. Her eyes met Emma's, and Emma felt as though 1,000 forgotten childhood dreams stirred awake inside her. William bowed deeply. "Lariel," he breathed. The fairy queen smiled faintly, her voice melodic yet resonant, like a chime in Emma's bones. "It has been long, William Greenfern." Emma froze. "She knows you?" William chuckled softly. "We've spoken in dreams." More fairies followed, swirling into the circle in radiant arcs. Where their feet touched grass, flowers bloomed instantly, vibrant and fragrant. Mushrooms burst forth in glowing rings, forming perfect fairy circles. Emma knelt beside one, her scientific instinct overpowering her awe. She scanned the mycelium beneath. The quantum signature was unmistakable, a localized entanglement field. "They're using the mycelium as a quantum lattice," she whispered. "Natural teleport nodes." One fairy laughed softly at her words, flicking a glowing petal onto Emma's shoulder. Suddenly, the portal flickered. Emma's device blared a warning, an interference spike. From the edge of the circle, shadows rippled unnaturally across the grass. The temperature dropped. Lyriel's expression hardened. "He stirs." Emma turned sharply. "Malachar?" The fairy queen nodded. "The gate awakens both light and shadow. His prison feels its tremor." Emma's heart pounded. "We just opened it. I didn't mean—" Lyriel raised a hand gently. "Do not fear. This was always the first step." Emma steadied herself. Glancing at William, he gripped his cane tightly, watching the swirling fairies with reverence. "What now?" Emma asked. Lyriel stepped forward, her wings unfurling in radiant arcs. "Now, Emma Lumens, we heal your world and prepare for the war to come." Emma swallowed hard, but awe tempered her fear. The meadow beyond the portal called to her, a realm of light and wonder long lost. And for the first time, she believed. Chapter 4: The First Miracle. Dawn had broken fully by the time Emma Lumens stood at the heart of Stonehenge, surrounded by fairies. Their wings refracted sunlight into dancing rainbows, casting shifting hues across the stones. The hum of the portal had softened into a low resonance, steady and comforting, like the earth itself was purring in contentment. Emma's breath caught as she turned in a slow circle. The grass around them had transformed, lush and vibrant, dotted with wildflowers that hadn't grown here for centuries. Bluebells swayed alongside golden buttercups and scarlet poppies. Birds sang in riotous chorus, filling the air with life. Her scientific mind raced. This isn't just visual. This is ecological acceleration. Beside her, William Greenfern leaned on his cane, tears glistening in his eyes. "It's just as I dreamed," he murmured. Emma raised her scanner, hands trembling. Readings spiked off the charts. Biophotonic emissions, localized tachyon pulses, and soil nutrient levels regenerating exponentially. She knelt and pressed a probe into the earth, her screen lighting up. "The soil's microbial life has quadrupled in density," she muttered. "It's like they've rewound time on an ecosystem scale." A fairy fluttered down beside her, wings glittering in the sunlight. She was small, barely to Emma's waist, but her presence radiated warmth. She crouched, trailing a slender hand across the grass. Emma watched as the fairy traced a spiral into the soil. Within seconds, Mushrooms erupted in a perfect glowing circle, their caps shimmering with faint bioluminescence. Emma's eyes widened. A fairy circle, she breathed. Her scanner confirmed her suspicion. Beneath it, the mycelium network lit up like a fiber optic grid, quantum entanglement signatures dancing across its threads. They're using mycelium as biological waveguides, Emma whispered, awestruck. Localized teleportation nodes, an Earth-wide network. The fairy smiled knowingly and winked, as though she understood every word. Suddenly, the air shifted. Emma turned toward the stones. Lyriel, the fairy queen, stood tall, her wings stretched wide as she raised her hands to the sky. The resonance deepened. Emma's instruments lit up again. Field strength increasing. Wait, she's doing something with light frequencies. Above them, the sky shimmered. Clouds parted, and beams of golden sunlight cascaded down. The beams bent unnaturally, focused onto the land like living spotlights. Where they touched, grass thickened, flowers burst open, and trees, rose from saplings to full height in seconds. Emma's voice cracked. She's warping space-time. She's accelerating temporal fields for plant life. William chuckled softly. And you still need proof? Emma turned to him, eyes shining. I'm measuring it, William. This is real. The transformation spread outward. Streams cleared of silt, their waters turning crystal blue as fish leapt joyfully. Insects returned in clouds of iridescence. Wild deer wandered timidly from the hedgerows, their coats gleaming in the fairy light. Reporters and locals, who had gathered cautiously behind the barriers, watched in stunned silence as the plain became a paradise before their eyes. Cameras flashed. Drones hovered overhead, broadcasting the miracle globally. Emma glanced at her tablet. Social feeds were exploding. Headlines scrolled fast. Stonehenge miracle. Live footage of light beings goes viral. Fairies. Quantum event draws scientists and mystics alike. The world was watching. Emma approached Lyriel cautiously. What you're doing? It's beautiful. But how? Lyriel turned, her silver hair catching the sunlight like a halo. Your world is woven of threads, Emma Lumens. You see them as equations. We see them as song. Emma's brow furrowed. Song? Lyriel smiled gently, extending a hand. Would you hear it? Emma hesitated but nodded. Lyriel touched her forehead lightly. The world dissolved. For an instant, Emma's senses exploded. She heard colors, saw vibrations, felt molecules dance. The soil beneath her sang in deep, slow bass tones. The trees rang like harps, their leaves shimmering with sound. Even the light carried melody, cascading in golden chords. Lyriel's voice threaded through it. All things hum at their frequency. To heal, we amplify their song. Emma gasped as she was pulled back into herself. She staggered, heart racing. It's quantum harmonics. You're interacting directly with resonant fields. Lyriel tilted her head. If that is how you name it, so be it. Emma smiled faintly. Science calls it resonance. You call it song. Same truth, different language. Suddenly, a distant rumble rolled across the sky. Emma stiffened. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon, swirling unnaturally. William's face darkened. That isn't weather. Lirel's wings flared. Number. That is shadow. Emma's instruments screeched with warnings. A secondary resonance spike, jagged and chaotic, overlaying the fairies' harmonious field. It's the dark signal, Emma whispered. The one I saw in the lab. Lirel's eyes narrowed. Malachar stirs. His prison quakes. The fairies drew closer, their glow intensifying, wings raised in a protective circle. The joyous hum dimmed to a tense, low chord. Emma's pulse thundered. If he's waking up! Lirel stepped closer, her voice soft but unyielding. Then we must be faster. Heal the world, awaken its heart, and rally it against him. Emma swallowed. How? Lirel's eyes gleamed with determination. By showing them wonder, Emma Lumens. Remind your people of the beauty they've forgotten. When hearts awaken, shadow weakens. As the dark clouds loomed distant but growing, Emma looked down at the fairy circle glowing near her feet, at the vibrant flowers bursting across the plain, and at her scanner, blinking wildly with numbers no scientist could ignore. She realized then, this wasn't just a phenomenon. It was a revolution. Chapter 5. Shadows Stir. The first signs came quietly. 3 days after Stonehenge bloomed into paradise, Emma Lumens woke to news reports of dying woodlands in northern Scotland. Entire patches of forest had blackened overnight, their leaves shriveled, bark split and bleeding sap like wounds. She sat in William Greenfern's cottage, staring at her screen in disbelief. Satellite footage showed spreading rings of decay, perfectly circular, as though something radiated outward from a single point. Lirel stood beside her, her wings folded tightly, glow dimmed. Malachar's disciples, she said grimly. He whispers to those who crave power. They poison the earth to feed his prison's weakening. William's knuckles whitened on his cane. I thought his line died out centuries ago. Lirel shook her head. Not all. Shadows hide well in forgetful worlds. Emma exhaled sharply. This isn't just decay. It's measurable entropy spikes. She tapped at her tablet, pulling up energy graphs. Here, see this? Localized zones of negative energy flux. It's like something sucking the life out of these regions. William glanced over her shoulder, frowning. And where is the worst of it? Emma zoomed in. Right here. The map centered on Dartmoor, a place known for misty moors and legends of ghost lights. William sighed. Of course, old haunt of druid stones and folklore, perfect place for Malachar's ilk. Lirel stepped closer, her voice low. If the shadow deepens there, it will spread unchecked. We must cleanse it before the gate weakens. They traveled the next morning. The drive south was silent, tension heavy. Emma's mind spun between fear and fascination. She'd spent her life buried in data, but now the world felt alive in ways she'd never dreamed. Glowing fairy circles blooming in villages, wildflowers reclaiming urban cracks, rivers running clearer each day. But as beauty spread, so did the rot. They reached Dartmoor by dusk. The landscape was unsettling. Fog clung low, curling unnaturally around twisted trees. The smell hit Emma first, sour and metallic, like rust and decay. Her scanner screeched. Radiation spikes. No, not radiation. Quantum instability. The energy fields are inverted here. Lirel frowned. His breath lingers. They press deeper into the moor, guided by the faint glow of Emma's device and Lyriel's uncanny instincts. At the heart of the mist, they found it. A circle of stones blackened with scorch marks, their surfaces crawling with runes carved in jagged precision. Inside the ring, the ground was barren, cracked like desert clay. Emma's stomach churned. What did this? William's face was grim. This is a shadow rite. His disciples have been here. Lyriel's wings flared, light spilling into the gloom. Look closely, Emma Lumens. Emma raised her scanner. The display revealed a vortex of entropic energy spiraling downward, a sinkhole in the fabric of life. Her voice was barely a whisper. It's feeding something below. Before she could analyze further, a voice cut through the fog. Well, well, the little gate opener herself. Emma spun. Shadows coalesced into a man draped in black robes, his face hidden beneath a hood. Around him, 3 others emerged, pale and gaunt-eyed, holding staffs etched with obsidian runes. William stiffened. Malakar's disciples! The leader chuckled. We call ourselves his heralds now. Our master stirs, and soon your little fairy friends will kneel. Or burn. Emma's chest tightened. Lyriel stepped forward, radiant. You will not touch this world again. The herald laughed and slammed his staff down. The ground split open, tendrils of shadow erupting upward like living serpents. Emma stumbled back, scanning frantically. These fields, they're destabilizing space-time. William, if they keep this up, I know. William gripped his cane, muttering ancient words under his breath, glyphs glowing faintly on its wooden shaft. Lyriel soared upward, wings blazing brighter than torches. She thrust her hands outward. A wave of light exploded from her, colliding with the shadows. Where it struck, rot burned away like frost in sunlight. Emma's scanner pinged wildly. Entropy collapse reversing, harmonic fields stabilizing. Her scientist's instincts clicked. That wasn't just magic. It was measurable, quantifiable energy. The herald sneered and raised his staff again, but Emma reacted instinctively. She lunged forward, slamming her portable resonance device into the ground. The crystals flared, emitting a piercing harmonic tone. The stones in the corrupted circle vibrated violently, runes flickering out. The herald staggered. What? What is that? Emma shouted over the hum. Quantum harmonic inversion. You're corrupting the resonance field, so I'm flipping it back. The fairies seized the opening. Lyriel's glow erupted, and dozens of fairies swarmed in a spiral of blinding radiance, their collective light engulfing the heralds. Screams tore through the fog before they dissolved into shadow and vanished. Silence fell. Emma collapsed to her knees, trembling. Her scanner chimed softly. Entropy field neutralized. Lyriel landed beside her, resting a glowing hand on her shoulder. Well done, Emma Lumens. You wield your knowledge as deftly as any blade. Emma exhaled shakily. I didn't even think. It made sense. William chuckled softly. You're bridging 2 worlds, my dear. Science and wonder. The fairy queen gestured to the stones. Mushrooms sprouted in glowing rings, reclaiming the ground, their mycelial threads pulsing faintly in Emma's scans. The corruption receded, replaced by vibrant wild grass. But Lyril's expression darkened. This was only a whisper of him. When Malachar rises, he will not send heralds. He will come himself. Emma looked up at the fairy queen, determination hardening her fear. Then, we need to be ready. They left Dartmoor at dawn, the sun breaking through the mist, golden light spilling across a freshly healed meadow. Emma stared out the window, watching fairies flit through the trees as deer grazed on restored grasslands. But in her mind's eye, she saw only the herald's smile and heard his final words echoing like a warning. When he wakes, the gates will burn. Chapter 6. The Fairy Bloom. By the end of the week, the world was unrecognizable. What began at Stonehenge had become a global bloom. Fairies spread outward like streams of starlight, leaving trails of life in their wake. Villages awoke to find gardens of luminous flowers sprouting overnight. Urban rivers, once choked with trash, now ran clear and teeming with fish. Skies over industrial cities shifted from smoggy gray to pristine blue. It was everywhere. Emma Lumens stood on a hill overlooking London, her portable resonance scanner glowing brightly. Below her, Big Ben's clock tower was draped in flowering vines, roses blooming at every level. Even the Thames shimmered, reflecting fairy lights that danced along its banks. William Greenfern, standing at her side, leaned on his cane with a soft smile. "When was the last time you saw the city like this?" Emma stared, awestruck. "Never. This is impossible." He chuckled knowingly. And yet, nearby, a cluster of fairies spiraled over a park, scattering golden dust that glimmered like falling stars. Children laughed and ran beneath them, their giggles ringing out like bells. As the dust touched the ground, tiny mushroom rings sprouted instantly, forming fairy circles that glowed faintly blue, even in daylight. Emma crouched beside one, activating her scanner. Quantum resonance waves pulsed outward from the circle, perfectly symmetrical. "They're stabilizing the energy field," she murmured. "Localized teleportation gates. I'm tracking entanglement signatures over a 40-mile radius." William raised an eyebrow. "Meaning?" Emma smiled faintly. "Meaning they're not just fixing ecosystems. They're building a transport network." A fairy landed near Emma, wings humming softly. She recognized her, Leary, one of Lyril's envoys, playful and mischievous. Leary beckoned her closer. "Watch." Emma followed her to a ring of mushrooms. Leary stepped into it, her glow intensifying, and then in a burst of light she vanished. Emma's scanner pinged wildly. Quantum displacement event detected. Seconds later, Leary reappeared in another fairy circle across the park. She twirled midair and grinned. "We walk the veins of your earth." Emma blinked. "Mycelial entanglement nodes. They're quantum linked." William chuckled. "You really can't help yourself, can you?" Emma grinned sheepishly. "Science doesn't kill the wonder, William. It makes it bigger." The miracles continued. In the Sahara, satellite feeds showed vast stretches of sand erupting with green, oases forming where none existed for centuries. In the Amazon, fairies restored clearings stripped bare by logging, towering trees regrowing in hours. Coral reefs bleached for decades pulsed with color as glowing schools of fish returned. Emma's social feeds overflowed with videos. Fairies dancing above rice fields in China, summoning rainfall with spiraling arcs of light. Children holding hands with glowing fairy companions in Tokyo, cherry blossoms blooming wildly around them. Entire neighborhoods abandoning cars to plant fruit gardens in the streets, guided by fairy magic. Wonder was contagious. Emma's tablet buzzed with alerts. "Look at this," she said, pulling up real-time atmospheric data. "Air quality has jumped worldwide. CO2 levels are dropping faster than I thought possible." William's eyes twinkled. "You sound almost disappointed." Emma laughed softly. "Number just amazed. They're healing the planet faster than our best models predicted." Her gaze drifted upward. Even the sky seemed different. Auroras rippled faintly at night, visible even beyond polar regions, bathing cities in veils of green and violet light. But not all were joyful. News feeds began reporting strange opposition groups, men and women cloaked in black, sabotaging fairy blooms. Footage showed them burning fairy circles, scattering salt to kill the mushrooms. They called themselves the Veil Keepers. Emma's chest tightened as she scrolled. William glanced at her. "His disciples?" he said grimly. "They're targeting the mycelium gates," Emma realized. "If they cut enough of the network, it could slow the bloom." Lyral, perched nearby on a moss-covered branch, spoke without looking at them. "They are ants scurrying before a storm. They cannot stop what has begun." Emma turned her scanner toward Lyral. "I've been studying your light fields. There's a biophotonic resonance in your wings, harmonics tied to the Fibonacci sequence. Your energy output spikes during environmental restoration events." Lyral smiled faintly. "We weave beauty and balance, Emma Lumens. You weave numbers. Both serve the same song." Emma hesitated. "If I can map your resonance mathematically, I might replicate small-scale effects with tech, bridging science and magic." Lyriel tilted her head, intrigued. "Then let us teach each other." That evening, Emma joined the fairies in an experiment. They gathered in a meadow newly restored near William's cottage. Fairies formed a circle, wings glowing brighter than fireflies, as Emma calibrated her quantum crystal array. She synchronized it with their harmonic frequencies, amplifying their light. The result was breathtaking. Flowers erupted from the soil in a wave, glowing softly in blues and violets as fireflies danced overhead. Emma stared at her readings. "We just accelerated biological growth by a factor of 1,000. Controlled? Stable?" William grinned. "And you've only just begun." But her euphoria faltered as her device pinged. Anomalous energy detected. Emma frowned, scanning the display. A familiar jagged pattern appeared in the data, a dark counterwave beneath the fairy resonance. Lyriel's wings stiffened. "Malachar watches?" Emma's throat tightened. "He's sensing every miracle we create, isn't he?" Lyriel nodded slowly. "Light draws shadow, Emma Lumens. As we bloom, so too will he rise." Emma's fingers curled around her scanner. "Then we'd better stay ahead of him." That night, under skies lit by shimmering auroras, Emma couldn't sleep. She sat by her window, watching fairies drift like glowing embers through the forest outside. Her tablet screen pulsed faintly on the desk beside her. The waveform was there, the elegant, living curve she first saw weeks ago, but now something new shadowed beneath it. Two signals intertwined, one luminous, steady, and one jagged, coiled, waiting. She whispered to herself, "We're running out of time." Chapter 7. The Second Gate. The Amazon canopy stretched endlessly beneath their helicopter, an emerald ocean rolling under the blazing sun. From above, the rainforest looked untouched, wild, ancient, infinite. But Emma Lumen's scanner told a different story. "Deforestation scars," she murmured, pointing to patches of raw, exposed earth far below. Satellite imagery hid most of it, but the resonance field shows ruptures, like wounds in the ley line network. Beside her, William Greenfern leaned forward, brow furrowed. The second gate must be near one of them. The old text described a sunken circle, deep in the forest, swallowed by roots. Across from them, Lydiel sat, poised and calm, her wings folded close, glow dimmed to avoid detection. Her silver eyes fixed on the horizon. It lies at the confluence of earth and river, where the jungle has grown wildest. But beware, the shadow festers there. Emma tightened her grip on her scanner. "Then we'll clear it." Hours later, they landed near the banks of a winding river, the air humid and thick with the cries of unseen birds. A local guide had dropped them off and refused to wait, muttering in Portuguese about old spirits best left sleeping. Emma adjusted her satchel, sweat dampening her shirt instantly. "All right," she muttered, checking her device. "Resonance spikes are 10 clicks east." William wiped his brow. "Through that?" he said, gesturing at a dense wall of towering trees tangled in vines. Lyrael's wings unfurled slightly, casting soft light ahead. "We are not unwelcome here," she said simply, and the jungle seemed to part under her glow. Vines slackened, leaves shifted aside, and small creatures, monkeys, parrots, even jaguars, watched from the shadows, unafraid. Emma's breath hitched. "It's like the forest recognizes you." Lyriel smiled faintly. "It remembers?" They trekked for hours until the scanner pinged sharply. Emma stopped, raising it high. "Here, the energy's strongest right below us." Before them lay a clearing, where ancient stones jutted from the ground, twisted with massive roots. Half-buried pillars marked the edges of a sunken circle, its center flooded with shallow, shimmering water. Mushrooms glowed faintly at its edges, a fairy ring pulsing softly in the dark green shade. "This is it," William whispered. "The second gate." Emma stepped down into the pool, water lapping at her boots. Her scanner vibrated violently. "Resonance alignment confirmed. The field's still intact under the roots. It's just dormant." Lyriel spread her arms, wings unfurling to full span. "Then awaken it." Emma set up her quantum crystal array, placing it carefully atop a flat stone at the center. She powered it on, her heart pounding as the crystals lit up with familiar pale blue light. The device hummed, harmonizing with the jungle around them. "Calibration locked," Emma said, fingers flying over her tablet. "Bringing the resonance up to portal threshold in 3, 2. Suddenly, the ground shook. Emma stumbled, clutching the tripod. "Earthquake?" Lyriel's wings flared wide. "Number him." The shadows came first, pouring from between the trees like liquid night. They twisted into shapes, figures cloaked in black, their faces pale and hollow-eyed, Malakar's heralds. Emma's stomach lurched. "Not again." One stepped forward, raising a staff carved from obsidian. His voice slithered across the clearing. "You will not open this gate." William gritted his teeth. "We're not here to debate, you wretch." He planted his cane into the ground, ancient glyphs spiraling outward in glowing green. Emma's scanner screamed. Dark resonance spikes surged from beneath the soil. She saw it in her data, a counterwave, jagged and violent, pushing against the gate's harmonic field. "They're destabilizing it," she shouted. "If this field collapses, it'll implode. Hard." Lirel launched skyward, her wings igniting like molten silver. Fairies burst from the tree line behind her, dozens strong, trailing luminous arcs. They clashed with the herald's shadows, light and darkness colliding in radiant shockwaves that rattled Emma's teeth. Emma dove to her device, hand shaking. Come on, stabilize." She rerouted the resonance algorithm, amplifying harmonic feedback into the ground itself. Her screen flashed green. The roots encasing the stones vibrated and snapped apart, peeling away as glowing runes flared beneath them. The herald roared in anger. "Malachar rises! You cannot!" A beam of light from Lirel struck him mid-word, blasting him back into the shadows. The crystals surged brighter, emitting a ringing tone so pure, Emma felt it in her bones. The water in the circle exploded upward in a spiraling column of light. Emma staggered back as the portal bloomed open. Through it, she saw an emerald valley shimmering under aurora skies, waterfalls cascading into rivers lined with flowers glowing faintly in blues and golds. Fairies soared through the realm in radiant arcs. Liriel descended, landing gracefully beside Emma. The gate lives again. Fairies poured through, their glow banishing the last of the shadows. Mushrooms erupted in circles across the clearing, glowing brightly as the mycelial network surged to life beneath the soil. Emma scanned the readings, awestruck. Global resonance spike detected. Fairy field strength just doubled. William smiled proudly. Every gate makes them stronger. But Emma's relief was short-lived. Her scanner pinged sharply, a second signal, deeper, darker. Her blood ran cold. Oh no! On her screen, a jagged waveform pulsed beneath the fairy resonance, far stronger than before. Entropy levels off the charts. Lirel's expression darkened. He knows. Each gate weakens his chains. Emma's fingers trembled. If we keep opening them? William's voice was steady but grim. We'll wake him, and we'll have no choice but to face him. The fairies spread out through the jungle, their light igniting the rainforest in vibrant green. Emma watched as dead patches of forest blossomed instantly. Trees regrew. Orchids climbed newly formed trunks. Flocks of parrots returned in dazzling clouds of color. It was stunning and terrifying. Emma whispered, almost to herself, "We're running out of time." Chapter 8. Humanity Awakens. The world was dreaming. Every night, more people awoke speaking of visions. Glowing meadows under twin moons, rivers of light, and winged beings whispering forgotten truths. Hashtags trended globally. # fairy dreams. # awakening visions. Social feeds overflowed with wonder. Emma Lumens sat in her lab, temporarily relocated to William Greenfern's cottage, surrounded by EEG monitors and quantum resonance scanners. Wires trailed from a volunteer lying on a cot nearby, her eyes fluttering as she slept. Emma checked her instruments. Gamma bursts are spiking again, she murmured, scribbling notes. 35 hertz. Sustained activity in the pineal gland. William peered over her shoulder. That's the so-called third eye, yes? Emma nodded absently. In neuroscience, yes, it regulates circadian rhythms. But look at this. During fairy dream contact, it's emitting biophotonic pulses. This isn't normal brain activity. It's entanglement. On the cot, the volunteer smiled faintly in her sleep. A faint shimmer of gold dust sparkled above her head. Emma stared at the readings, heart pounding. The fairies are quantum linking with consciousness itself. They're weaving minds into resonance fields. Lyriel entered softly, wings dimmed to avoid startling Emma's equipment. We do not enter dreams, she corrected gently. We meet where dreaming thins the veil. It is where your minds sing loudest. Emma glanced at her. Your veil is what we'd call the quantum threshold, where perception shapes reality. You're harmonizing with it. Lyriel smiled faintly. Yes, you name it, with equations. We name it with song. Emma's voice dropped. And it's working, isn't it? The fairy queen nodded. Hearts long shuttered are opening, wonder weakens shadow. This is how we fight Malachar, not with blades, but with beauty remembered. Across the world, humanity was stirring. News footage showed spontaneous gatherings in city squares, people planting gardens and meditating under fairy-lit skies. Skyscraper rooftops transformed into orchards overnight. Children led parents to fairy circles, glowing in parks, laughing as flowers spiraled upward at their touch. Emma flipped between live feeds, amazed. In Paris, fairies danced above the Seine, their light restoring its long-polluted waters in seconds. In Mumbai, fairy rings bloomed on apartment balconies, drawing crowds who wept openly at the sight. In New York, Times Square screens were overtaken by shimmering auroras as fairies flew between neon towers, scattering glowing dust that turned asphalt cracks into bursts of greenery. William watched it all with misty eyes. Do you see it, Emma? We are remembering who we were meant to be. Back in the lab, Emma ran a synchronized global scan. The results floored her. Planetary resonance is climbing, she said breathlessly. Magnetospheric readings are off the charts. It's like Earth's Schumann resonance. The planet's natural frequency is rising in tandem with fairy activity. William raised an eyebrow. Meaning? Emma turned the screen toward him. Meaning humanity's awakening isn't just emotional. It's physical. The Earth itself is sinking to this harmonic field. Lyriel's wings flared gently. When wonder flows, Earth heals. You're not separate from her. Emma rubbed her temples. I've studied physics my whole life. But this? It's consciousness, ecology, and quantum mechanics braided together. That night, Emma lay awake, restless. The world outside glowed faintly, fairy lights drifting lazily through the trees. Finally, exhaustion took her. She dreamed. She stood in a meadow bathed in moonlight, not Earth's moon, but two pale orbs casting silver beams over an endless valley of glowing flowers. Fairies soared overhead in radiant flocks, their wings trailing constellations across the sky. A voice called, Emma, Lumens. Lyriel stood before her, taller here, luminous beyond words. You walk the veil well. Emma's breath caught. Is this the bright veil? Lirel smiled. It is a memory of it, woven for you. Soon, you may walk it waking. Emma turned slowly, taking it all in. The stars shimmered like living fireflies, the rivers below glowing as though lit from within. It's beautiful. Lirel's expression softened. It is also fragile. Malachar senses our blooming. His shadows lengthen even now. Emma clenched her fists. Then, tell me how to stop him. Lirel reached forward, touching Emma's forehead. A cascade of images flooded her mind. Ancient stone circles worldwide, connected by glowing ley lines like threads of light. At their center burned a black knot, a frozen prison pulsing deep beneath the Arctic ice. The final gate, Lirel whispered. It must be opened. Only then can we confront him where his chains lie. Emma gasped awake, heart pounding. At dawn, she rushed to her workstation, hair disheveled, eyes blazing. William glanced up from his tea. Long night? I saw it, Emma said breathlessly, pulling up planetary ley line maps. The Arctic Nexus, the original gate where Malachar was sealed. It's real. The resonance lines converge perfectly beneath the polar ice cap. William set down his cup, his expression grave. Then, that's where it ends. Later that day, Emma briefed Lirael. Fairies gathered in shimmering flocks outside the cottage, their wings glowing in midday light. Emma tapped her screen, projecting holographic overlays. If we open that final gate, it'll merge Earth and the bright veil permanently. Fairy resonance will be unstoppable. Lirael nodded slowly, but it will also wake him fully. Emma exhaled hard. Then, we have to be ready. William leaned heavily on his cane. We'll need every fairy circle, every ley line, every awakened heart. Humanity must stand with them. Emma looked at Lirael, determination burning in her chest. Then we unite them all. That night, a broadcast unlike any before aired worldwide. Emma Lumens standing before Stonehenge, flanked by Lirael and a host of radiant fairies, speaking live to billions. Humanity, she began, voice steady despite the weight of it. You've seen what they can do. You've felt it in your dreams, in your cities, in your hearts. But this is only the beginning. To heal our world and defend it, we must open the final gate, and we cannot do it alone. Fairies rose behind her in a dazzling spiral, their wings shimmering like dawn breaking. Emma's eyes burned with resolve. Will you stand with us? Chapter 9. The Siege of Stonehenge. The night was electric. Emma Lumens stood at the heart of Stonehenge, her quantum crystal array thrumming softly at her feet. Fairies circled overhead in glowing spirals, their wings scattering radiant dust that lit the stones like pillars of starlight. Around them, hundreds of humans had gathered, holding lanterns, candles, and makeshift lights, their faces determined. The world had heard her call. Children perched on their parents' shoulders, wide-eyed at the fairies dancing above. Farmers, teachers, scientists, and strangers stood side by side, united by wonder. William Greenfern stepped up beside her, cane in hand, his weathered face etched with resolve. Do you hear it, Emma? Emma glanced at him. Hear what? He smiled faintly. The hum of hope. Above them, Lyrael hovered, radiant as moonlight. Tonight, the shadow comes. Tonight, we answer. Emma's scanner chirped sharply. Reading spiked. Entropy surges approaching fast from the west. Her stomach nodded. They're here! From beyond the fields, a rolling fog swept toward them, black as ink, swallowing stars as it came. Shapes emerged within it, cloaked figures, their eyes glowing like coals, staffs crackling with obsidian runes. The crowd murmured nervously. Emma gripped her tablet tighter. Malakar's disciples! Lyrael's wings flared, scattering arcs of silver fire. Heralds of decay, stand firm! The first clash came fast. The heralds raised their staffs, chanting in unison. Tendrils of shadow lashed forward, striking the ground and withering grass where they touched. Trees along the horizon twisted into black husks. Emma's device blared warnings. They're inverting the resonance field. If they destabilize it here, the whole network collapses. William slammed his cane into the earth, runes along its shaft blazing green. Not while I still breathe. Fairies dove from the sky in radiant squadrons, their lights slashing through the fog like blades. Where they struck, shadows recoiled, sizzling. Humans gasped in awe but held their ground, lanterns raised defiantly. Emma dropped to her knees beside her array. Fingers flying over controls, she synced it to the Stonehenge runes. The stones vibrated, glowing brighter than they had in millennia. Amplifying harmonic feedback, she muttered, sweat beading on her forehead. Come on! The crystals pulsed, projecting beams of light upward, weaving a dome of shimmering resonance over the circle. The crowd gasped as the barrier solidified, humming like a living chord. The herald leader stepped forward, robes whipping in the spectral wind. His voice echoed unnaturally. Give us the gate, or be consumed. Lyrael descended slowly, wings blazing with incandescent fury. This gate is no longer yours to poison. She thrust her hands outward. A shockwave of pure light exploded from her, blasting through the fog. Fairies surged forward, following her lead, their magic weaving into radiant arcs that cleaved shadow creatures to mist. Emma's scanner spiked wildly. Resonance field is holding, but just barely. Suddenly, one herald broke from the fog, sprinting toward the barrier with a dagger of black crystal raised high. Emma's breath caught. William! Before she could react, William stepped forward, slamming his cane down. Green runes flared from the earth, and roots burst upward, wrapping the attacker's legs and hurling him back into the mist. Emma blinked. You didn't tell me you could do that. William smirked. I was saving a few surprises. The sky split. From the heart of the fog, a colossal serpent of shadow erupted, its eyes twin voids. It lunged for the barrier, slamming against it with a sound like cracking glass. The dome flickered dangerously. Emma's heart pounded. If that breaks through... Lyrael soared higher, her glow intensifying to blinding brilliance. Fairies joined her, spiraling upward in formation, weaving a lattice of radiant lines. Emma understood instantly. They're forming a resonance grid. She synced her array to their frequency. The crystals screamed with energy, and the dome's light surged brighter, solidifying like molten glass. The serpent struck again. This time, it shattered into ash, dissolving into the night. The crowd erupted in cheers. Lanterns lifted higher, their glow mingling with the fairy light. Emma's scanner pinged, human emotional resonance spiking globally. She realized with awe they were feeding the field. "Keep cheering!" Emma shouted, grinning wildly. "Your hearts are literally powering the gate." People roared louder, chanting, clapping, stamping feet. Children waved glowing flowers fairies had gifted them, their laughter ringing pure and bright. The heralds faltered. Their shadows thinned. One by one, they retreated into the fog, their chants breaking into snarls. Emma's screen blinked green, entropy fields collapsing. Lyrael descended gracefully, wings folding as fairies landed all around her like falling stars. The shadow retreats, for now. William exhaled, leaning heavily on his cane. "We've bought time, but not much." Emma scanned the sky. The fog was gone, but far above, the auroras shimmered darker than before, streaked faintly with inky black veins. She swallowed hard. Malakar's chains are breaking. Lyrael met her gaze, solemn. "The final gate calls. Emma Lumens. We must open it before he does." Emma tightened her fists. "Then we go north, to the Arctic." As dawn broke, Stonehenge stood renewed, its stones glowing faintly, the ground carpeted in flowers, fairy circles sparkling like constellations. Humans embraced each other, still buzzing with awe. For the first time in centuries, Emma thought, Earth felt alive. And yet, deep beneath the ice, Malakar stirred. Chapter 10. The Final Gate. The helicopter cut through a sky of shimmering auroras, their green and violet waves rippling brighter than Emma Lumens had ever seen. They stretched from horizon to horizon, veined now with faint tendrils of black that pulsed like veins of ink across a living canvas. Emma clutched her tablet, eyes fixed on the resonance readings. The Arctic nexus is directly beneath us. All ley lines converge here. It's the primal gate. William Greenfern, seated beside her, adjusted his fur-lined coat. This is where Malakar was sealed. His voice carried a weight that seemed to chill even the insulated cabin. Across from them, Lyrael sat serene, wings folded close, her glow subdued but steady. The bright veil was once tethered here, the first crossing, the oldest gate. Emma's throat tightened. And now it's the last one holding him. They landed on a frozen plateau beneath towering cliffs of blue ice. The wind howled bitterly, scattering snow across the landing pad. Emma stepped out, breath pluming in the air, her boots crunching on ancient frost. Ahead, carved into the ice itself, loomed a vast stone circle, half buried by glaciers. Monolithic pillars jutted from the snow, their surfaces etched with runes so old they seemed fossilized into time itself. Emma stared, heart pounding. "It's enormous." William nodded grimly. "Older than recorded history. This wasn't built by any civilization we know." Lyrael's wings shimmered faintly, her breath misting in the cold. The first gate was raised by both worlds together in an age when science and song were one, long before the sundering. Emma's fingers tightened on her tablet. "We're bringing it back." The camp assembled fast, hundreds of humans, scientists, engineers, volunteers, joined fairies who flitted like radiant sparks against the frozen dark. Emma oversaw the installation of her largest quantum crystal array yet, its polished lattice anchored across the icy ground. Portable reactors powered the emitters, their hum blending with the whisper of the wind. "Crystals charged," she reported, teeth chattering. "Resonance grid stable." William tapped his cane, surveying the glowing stones. "Once you activate this, Emma, there's no going back." She looked at him, resolve hardening. "We don't have a choice." Lyrael rose above the circle, her wings igniting with brilliance that painted the ice cliffs in silver light. "Emma Lumens, begin the song." Emma's fingers flew across her console. The crystals pulsed alive, beams of harmonic energy lancing into the sky, striking each stone in perfect sequence. One by one, the runes awakened, glowing gold, then white hot. The ground rumbled. The frozen air vibrated like a living chord. Snow cascaded from the cliffs in shimmering sheets. Her scanner pinged wildly. Portal resonance reaching peak thresholds. "This is it," she shouted. "Final synchronization." The ice cracked. A jagged line split the ground with a thunderous roar. From the fissure, black mist erupted, coiling like serpents, clawing upward. Emma's breath caught. "No." William gripped his cane. "He's already here." The air tore open. From the abyss, Malachar rose. His form towered above them, cloaked in shadow, eyes burning red like twin suns in eclipse. His voice rolled like thunder across the tundra. "Fools! You bring the gate to me!" Emma staggered back, her tablet trembling in her hands. Readings spiked, entropy fields off the charts. The ground beneath the stones turned black, frost withering into jagged obsidian veins. Fairies shrieked as the sky darkened, auroras bleeding away into writhing clouds of ink. Lyrael hovered before Malachar, wings blazing defiantly. "Your reign of shadow ends here." He laughed, a deep, hollow sound that froze Emma's blood. "Light has no place in the grave I will make of this world." Malachar raised a staff of twisted crystal, slamming it down. Shadow erupted outward, slashing through the encampment. Humans screamed as tents and equipment were hurled into the air. "Emma!" William shouted. Emma ducked behind a console, shielding her device. Her fingers flew. "If I can invert the field, I can stabilize it." Malachar's gaze locked on her, as if he could see straight through every layer of steel and skin. "The key!" Emma froze. His voice hit like a blow, vibrating her skull. He knew her. Lyrael surged forward, intercepting his focus. "You will not touch her." Fairies dived in radiant squadrons, light colliding with Malachar's shadow in dazzling bursts. Their wings carved streaks through the darkness, but his power was overwhelming. He swatted them aside with waves of black fire, snarling. Emma's device wailed as the portal destabilized. "Field collapse imminent," she cried. William gritted his teeth. "Emma! If he breaches fully, it's over." "I know." Her hands shook as she slammed new commands into her console. "I'm boosting output to override the shadow field." "Too dangerous." Emma glanced up at him, eyes blazing. "Everything's dangerous now." Malachar struck again, slamming his staff into the ice. A crack split straight toward Emma. She dove aside as the ground burst upward, shards of obsidian flying like knives. Fairies swarmed him again, Lyral at their head, her wings blazing like a comet. Emma saw it, a pattern in their movements, a resonance forming midair. Her scanner confirmed it. Fairy flight paths weaving harmonic geometry, ancient sigils encoded in light itself. It's a counterseal, she realized. Emma grabbed her comm. Lyriel, hold that formation. I can amplify it. Lyriel's voice rang in her mind. Do it, Emma Lumens. Emma synced her array to their resonance. Crystals flared, beams shooting skyward to intersect with the fairy's living sigil. The sky erupted in brilliance, pure white light crashing down onto Malachar. He roared, staggering back, his form fracturing like shattered glass. For the first time, Emma saw him falter. But then he smiled. Yes, break my chains faster. Emma's stomach dropped. The ground split wide, and from below, black spires erupted, anchoring him fully into the world. His shadow swelled, blotting out the horizon. Lyrael's glow dimmed, strain evident. He is forcing the breach. Emma's screen blinked red, full awakening in progress. William grabbed her shoulder. Emma, we can still finish the gate, link it to the bright veil, and flood him with light. Emma's jaw tightened. Then we push everything into it. As fairies rallied and humans held lanterns high against the encroaching dark, Emma slammed her palm down on the console. The quantum crystal array screamed to life, its energy field fusing with Lyril's sigil. The stones of the Arctic nexus ignited like suns. The ice shattered outward in rings of light as the portal roared open, its vortex blazing white gold, flooding the tundra with radiance. Malachar recoiled, bellowing as light tore at him. Lyriel's voice thundered, Emma Lumens, now! Emma triggered the final sequence. The portal flared brighter than day. Chapter 11. The Quantum Ascension. The Arctic nexus blazed like a newborn sun. Emma Lumens shielded her eyes as the quantum crystal array roared, its beams piercing the sky and locking onto the portal's vortex. The runes carved into the ancient stones glowed white-hot, melting snow into rushing streams of light. Malachar howled, his towering shadow form writhing as radiance tore chunks of darkness from him. His voice thundered across the ice. You cannot banish me! This world is mine! The ground split open beneath his feet, black spires clawing skyward. Frozen cliffs shattered, ice collapsing into the sea as shockwaves rippled outward. Lyral hovered before him, wings unfurled in defiance. Not while it remembers the light. Emma's scanner screamed warnings. Portal stabilization critical. Entropy surge approaching threshold. She grit her teeth, fingers flying over controls. If this field collapses now, he'll drag the whole Arctic down with him. William Greenfern's voice rang out from behind her, calm despite the chaos. Emma, look! She turned. All around them, humans raised lights, lanterns, torches, glowing flowers gifted by fairies. They formed a vast circle beyond Stonehenge's ancient stones, their voices rising in song, not rehearsed, but instinctive. It spread like fire, a chant of unity, awe, and wonder. Emma's scanner spiked. Oh my God! Global resonance spike detected. They're feeding the gate. Fairies swooped overhead, joining humans in a radiant spiral. Wings shimmered, scattering trails of silver dust that wove upward like stardust rivers. The auroras above pulsed brighter, bleeding away their black veins until they shimmered green and violet once more. Emma's heart raced. We can do this! She synced her array to the harmonic field, amplifying the frequencies. Lyriel, hold formation. Lyriel's voice rang like bells. All wings with me. Hundreds of fairies formed a blazing lattice overhead, their light weaving into ancient sigils that burned in the sky itself, a living counterspell drawn in radiance. Malachar recoiled, shadows writhing violently. Enough! He slammed his staff down. The ice exploded outward, geysers of black mist shooting skyward. A wave of shadows surged forward like a living tide. Emma's console blared red. Shadow field intrusion imminent. Not today, she growled. She rerouted every ounce of power into the resonance emitters. The crystals screamed, hurling beams of white gold energy directly into the portal. The vortex roared wider, swallowing the sky. Its light spilled outward, pushing against Malachar's darkness like an ocean tide against jagged rock. Lyriel soared higher, her glow magnified tenfold. Emma Lumens, join your voice to ours. Emma hesitated, then closed her eyes. She thought of the fairy dreams, the bright veils glowing rivers, the songs of stars and soil she'd heard when Lyriel first touched her mind. She sang, not with words, but with resonance, her voice trembling as she matched the fairies' harmonics. Her console synced instantly, amplifying her voice into pure frequency. Light cascaded upward. The human's chant rose louder, echoing across the ice. Fairy dust spiraled in shimmering streams. The entire planet, Emma realized, was singing. Her scanner spiked. Planetary Schumann resonance exceeded historic limits. Earth itself was vibrating in harmony. Malachar roared, staggering backward as cracks split his form, shadow peeling away like torn cloth. No! I am eternal! Lyriel's voice thundered across the tundra, a radiant command. Begone! She dove with meteoric force, spearheading a spiral of fairies blazing so brightly it was like a comet striking the dark. Their collective light slammed into Malachar, driving him to his knees. Emma seized the moment. Routing full quantum output, she shouted. She slammed her palm down. The crystals flared brighter than ever, fusing their resonance directly into the portal. The gate exploded open fully, a rift into the bright veil itself. Through it poured radiant winds and scents of blooming meadows, twin moons glowing in a sky alive with auroras. Fairies surged forward, latching onto Malachar with beams of light that bound him like chains. Emma's readings spiked, entanglement lock achieved. Lyriel turned, her silver eyes locking with Emma's. Now! Emma slammed the final command. A roar unlike anything Emma had ever heard split the world. Light cascaded outward, enveloping Malachar entirely. His form shattered, fragments of shadow ripping away and streaming into the portal. He bellowed one last time, his voice warping and fading. You cannot hold me forever. Then he was gone. The portal flared, swallowing the last trace of his darkness before stabilizing, glowing steady and serene. The silence after was deafening. Emma collapsed to her knees, breath ragged, tears freezing on her cheeks. Her scanner blinked green. Entropy fields neutralized. Planetary resonance stabilized. William limped over, grinning through exhaustion. "You did it, Emma." Lyra landed beside her, folding her wings, her glow soft but warm. "No, William Greenfern. We did." Emma looked up. The portal still shimmered, open and steady, a gateway between Earth and the bright veil. Through it, fairies fluttered freely, their laughter ringing like bells across the icy air. For the first time in millennia, the two worlds were one. Humans cheered, their voices echoing across the Arctic. Lanterns glowed brighter, candles held high, reflecting in the shimmering snow. The auroras overhead pulsed brighter than ever, sweeping the sky in luminous waves. Emma stood slowly, smiling faintly through tears. "We won." Lyra tilted her head, wings flickering softly. "We began." Emma blinked. "Began?" The Fairy Queen gestured toward the portal. "The bright veil is open. Its magic will flow again, and your world will bloom. But our work is not done. Healing takes time, Emma Lumens, and wonder must be tended like a garden." Emma nodded, heart swelling. "Then we tend it, together." The wind softened. Sunlight broke through, pale and pure, bathing the tundra in warmth for the first time in living memory. The ice sparkled like crystal. Emma stepped toward the portal, staring into its glowing expanse. Twin moons hung above fields of shimmering flowers. For a heartbeat, she felt like a child again, standing at the edge of an impossible dream. William chuckled quietly behind her. "Go on, Emma. You've earned it." Emma smiled, wiped her eyes, and stepped through. Chapter 12. The Age of Wonder. Emma Lumens stepped through the portal and gasped. The bright veil spread before her like a dream unfurled. Rolling meadows carpeted with luminous flowers, crystalline rivers weaving like ribbons of light, and twin moons glowing softly in a sky alive with auroras. Fairies soared overhead, their wings scattering glimmering trails like falling stars. She turned slowly, wonder filling every corner of her mind. "It's real," she whispered. Lyra smiled beside her, serene and radiant. "Welcome home, Emma Lumens, the first human to return since the gates closed." Emma swallowed, overwhelmed. "It's breathtaking. It's like every fairy tale I ever loved came alive." Lyra touched her shoulder gently. "This is what Earth remembers it can be." In the days that followed, the gates across the world remained open. Fairies danced freely between realms, their magic flowing back into the earth. Forests regenerated in days, oceans teemed with life, cities transformed as vines and flowers wove themselves through streets and towers. Skyscrapers became living green spires, hummingbirds darting between glass and ivy. Emma walked through London one morning, her scanner in hand, stunned at the data scrolling across it. CO2 levels plummeting globally. Oxygen saturation rising for the first time in centuries. Biodiversity spikes surpassing modern records. She looked up to see a fairy circle, blooming around the base of Big Ben. Mushrooms glowed faintly in the daylight. Linked via mycelium threads, she could now hear in resonant scans. A planetary quantum web humming in harmony. Her scientist's mind raced, but her heart just soared. Humans adapted quickly. They planted gardens instead of paving roads, turned abandoned malls into orchards lit by glowing fairy dust, and dismantled smokestacks that no longer had purpose. Schools taught botany and resonance physics side by side, blending science and fairy craft. Children learned to grow flowers with a song, their laughter filling the air as fairies perched on their shoulders like living jewels. Emma visited one such school in Kyoto. A girl no older than 8 tugged her sleeve, holding up a glowing sunflower. "Miss Lumens, look, Leary helped me grow it in 3 seconds." Emma laughed, kneeling to admire it. "That's beautiful. Do you know what that means?" The girl grinned proudly. "It means I'm part scientist and part fairy." Emma smiled. Exactly. But it wasn't just nature that healed. It was humanity itself. Acts of kindness flourished. Strangers shared food freely from community gardens. Former cities of steel and glass became places of song and starlight, woven with streams and fairy-lit groves. People abandoned the relentless grind of old industries, returning to craft, art, music, and wonder. And the dreams. Those nightly visions persisted. Humans woke with glowing eyes and radiant smiles, describing walks in the bright vale guided by fairies, conversations with glowing foxes, and lessons from ancient trees whose voices rumbled like thunder. Emma studied them all, confirming what she once thought impossible. During those dreams, measurable quantum entanglement spikes connected human consciousness to the veil itself. They're literally bridging minds across realms, she told William, who simply smiled and said, "Of course they are." Emma herself became a bridge. She traveled constantly, moving between Earth and the bright veil, her research blending seamlessly with fairy magic. She mapped resonance nodes, cataloged harmonic frequencies, and taught scientists to work alongside fairy circles. Lyriel often accompanied her, radiant and calm. Together, they opened 5 more gates, ensuring every continent had a direct link to the veil. On one such journey, Emma stood atop Machu Picchu, now overgrown in luminous flowers, watching as fairies ignited the night sky in dazzling displays. Her scanner pinged softly in her hand, its readings harmonious and perfect. She whispered, "We did it." Lyra looked at her, smiling. "No, Emma Lumens, we began it." Months later, Emma returned to the Arctic Nexus, now transformed into a sanctuary where humans and fairies mingled freely. The once barren ice cliffs bloomed with crystalline trees, glowing softly in moonlight. William sat by a fire, bundled in furs, watching children chase fairies through glowing snow. He looked at Emma with a weary but joyful smile. "Do you ever miss the old world?" Emma shook her head, gazing at the living wonder around them. I think it finally became what it was always meant to be." He chuckled. "And you helped it remember." Emma walked to the portal's edge. It shimmered gently, steady and welcoming, twin moons casting pale light beyond it. Lyral joined her, wings folding softly. "Malakar's gone," she said quietly, "bound in the veil's deepest light, far from harm. His shadow will not return, while hearts remain open." Emma nodded. "And if it does?" Lyral smiled faintly. "Then the world will answer as one, as it did today." Emma exhaled, relief washing over her. "What now?" Lyral looked out at the shimmering horizon. "Now, we heal, we grow, we live." Emma gazed at the twin moons, her heart swelling with wonder. For the first time in her life, there was no dividing line between science and magic, dream and reality. She glanced back at Earth, now thriving, vibrant, and luminous, even from here, and smiled. Quantum resonance, she murmured softly, the physics of miracles. Lyriel tilted her head, or simply the song of life, Emma Lumens. Emma laughed gently. Maybe they're the same thing. She stepped through the portal, hand in hand with Lyriel, into a world where wonder had returned. Above them, auroras danced brighter than ever. Fairy circles glowed like constellations on Earth's surface. Humans sang beside fairies in meadows of light. The age of wonder had begun. And Emma Lumens smiled, knowing it was only the first chapter. The end.